Alright, so the argument I'll be responding to tonight is that standardized tests fail to accurately reflect student achievement. The advocate's secondary claims were that standardized tests are limited to the student's qualities they can assess. Standardized tests replace conceptual learning with memorization, and that many countries that surpass the United States in education do not use these tests. Tonight, my claim is going to be that the standardized tests are a good measure of intelligence and reflect the learning that students do in school. So first of all, the material that is tested on the SAT is based on the standards that are used in classrooms across the country. According to an article in the Atlantic, the SAT, according to research, the SAT is now modeled around the Common Core standards that are adopted by more than 40 states. In addition to this, the SAT has now been redone and refreshed by the President David Coleman, which is the president of the College Board and once architect of the Common Core standards. Is now the writer and influences what's going to be on the test. So in a way, this helps students. They're not necessarily going to have to memorize a certain material that's just on the SAT. They're going to be tested on material and concepts that they learn in school, and that the scores on the test are going to reflect what they're learning in school. So following that, the article states that the College Board recently partnered with Khan Academy, which trains students on testing fundamentals and provide practice questions with detailed answers. The advocate has stated that some studies show a correlation between sport tests and poverty. However, the Khan Academy and the SAT is now providing an app on smartphones, which students can snap photos of their answers and on paper and pencil, and they could get help from instructors. So this demonstrates that even the students that come from poverty schools or poverty areas could get help. They have the resources to help them understand what's going to be on the test. In addition to that, the advocate states that SAT favors wealthier students with better resources. However, our research shows that expensive coaching has little impact on scores. For example, a 2009 report from the National Association of College Admission Counseling indicated that prep courses improved SAT scores by an average of 10 to 20 points in math and 5 to 10 points in critical reading. Research shows that these small increases in scores can be achieved by just taking the test a second time. So there's not necessarily an advantage that wealthy people, it doesn't exist that there's an advantage to being a wealthy student. My second point is that the SAT provides an objective measure in college admissions. The advocate likes to state that the SAT is used in conjunction with grades and extracurricular activities, and is also helpful in distinguishing students during the application process. The author of the top 3 benefits of PSAT SAT, Julia Watson, confirms that according to the U.S. Department of Education, the average number of applicants has risen 60% over the course from 2001 and 2011. The advocate discredits the SAT but does not consider the usefulness of the exam to colleges and why it is necessary. With a growing number of college applicants, admission officers need the SAT to have enough information to admit their applicants. According to a doorway to college, all high schools do not offer the same academic learning environments or expectations or programs. A person in the top 10 in one school may not even be the top 25% in a more rigorous high school. So the SAT provides like a common ground in which colleges are able to compare students fairly. The SAT provides information to schools which gives information in which students are given the same test with the same content at the same time. In addition to this, according to a journal written by James Crouse from the University of Delaware, the SAT coupled with students' GPA is a good predictor of the performance a student will produce in college. Crouse refers to the supplemental table of predicted grades, which is used by admissions officers that help predict applicants' freshman grades using both high school grades and the SAT. The table shows how predictions used coupled with SAT are a better indicator of the freshman GPAs. In addition to this, Kroll states, without standardized admission testing, grade inflation would become rampant and high school record would lose most of its meaning. I have a personal example that goes along with this. In my high school, some teachers would ask students to bring boxes of tissues in return for extra credit. So all of a sudden, like the next day, students will bring like 10 boxes of tissues, and now everyone has like 100 extra credit points, and everyone has an A in the class. So the SAT helps uncover grade inflation and provides a fair information for colleges. And lastly, standardized testing is, my final point is that standardized testing is used in the current leading educational systems. According to a report by McKinsey and Company, 20 school systems that have achieved significant, sustained, and widespread gains on national and international assessments use proficiency targets for each school and frequent standardized testing to monitor system progress. For example, China has a long tradition of standardized testing and leads the world in educational achievement. The advocate had stated that Finland was ranked at the top due to its lack of standardized testing, but however, that's not true anymore. China, which has a system that is based on standardized testing, is now the first in math, science, and reading. So in essence, this shows that the influence that standardized testing has in creating quality students. Lastly, the United States is following suit to standardized tests such as SAT to compete in the international educational assessment. Altogether, the SAT is a good measure of students' intellectual performance and is helpful during college admissions. The notion of standardized testing is beneficial on generating more qualified students. Thank you.
All right, structurally, everything is relatively clear. I thought that you did a good job presenting a variety of evidence to support the positions that you're taking. You need to occasionally contrast it a little bit more to the argument that the advocate's presenting. You do that in a couple of spots. For example, in the last spot, when you're talking about the advocate's use of Finland and you contrast that to China, I thought you did a good job on that. And on the wealth issue, the same sort of thing. I thought that there was something that was responsive there. But there were some other places where there's I assume that the advocate presented some evidence and we don't really get any explanation of what's problematic with their evidence or how they've reasoned. Instead, we're relying primarily on rebuttal evidence that you're presenting. And you have a lot of good rebuttal evidence. You also give good explanations about how the process is used and how it works and why it's it's a necessary function, especially when you're comparing the schools. I kind of like the example of that you have about the tissue boxes and getting the extra credit, which doesn't seem to have a lot to do with the school, with the students' achievement in the classroom, but it does fulfill a need that the school has, and it changes the results that you're going to have. Then we need to have something objective to be able to talk about that. I think that you did a good job tying it into the issue of Common Core and the way the test has been changed to reflect these things, which is not the same thing as rote memorization, and you went after that on that first point pretty effectively. All right, I'm going to stop there because